Okay, what I'm doing today is I found when I was out riding that I've got a little bit of play in my front end. And I don't know if I'll be able to show you or not. But I figured out the play was from the tie rod end. So I get a flash going here. It's the outside one on this side and the inside one on the other side. Anywho, what I ordered a couple of Allballs kits, and each kit comes with 2 tie rod ends, and I'm going to install them. So the first thing I have to do is take a tire off, get it out of the way. Then I'll take this bolt out, and then the bolt off in here to get the tie rod out, and then from that I'll change the ends. I'll show you what I do once I get that off. Okay, I have the tire off. For those that haven't taken tire off a car or an ATV or whatever before, you loosen the lug nuts up while the tire's on the ground, and then jack it up, and then take the lug nuts the rest of the way off. So just turn them like half a turn while the tire's still on the ground, and then jack it up and take them the rest of the way off. Just wanted to point out that there's a cotter pin on here, so don't forget that if your kit doesn't come with one, mine did, you're going to have to get new cotter pins to replace the ones that you're taking off. So I'm going to remove this bolt now, and the one on the inside in there. Take the tie rod off. I got the cotter pin out, and I was getting ready to take it off. I wanted you to see this. I went hunting night before, or last night, and I haven't had a chance to clean it yet. That's why there's all this mud on there. Normally I clean it after my rides, but I think you can see the bad tie rod end a little better now. That works a little better. That's the play in the tie rod end. All right, I got the tie rod end off, the tie rod off. Let me show you what the plan is here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lay it on a piece of cardboard, and where the ends are, I'm going to draw a circle inside of here on both ends. And what the intent is that I'm going to change both the ends out and put it back to the same length, or relatively the same length as now. I realize I've got some play on this bad end here, so it won't be the exact right length, but that should get me really close to the proper length for the tie rod without having to do a whole lot of adjusting. Now, with the 2 replacement ends, there really shouldn't be a problem with one end goes where, because one should be right hand threaded and the other one left hand threaded, so you should not be able to put them on backwards. And I believe on the Polaris that these 2 holes, one is smaller than the other. I think that one there is smaller than that one, so that should make it easy to figure out which end goes on the steering knuckle and which end goes on the stem down there. All right, I've changed out both the ends on it, and compared the length to the length that I marked in here. It's about the same. These actually are a little bit longer in here, so I had to back the jam nuts up a little bit so I can get both the ends on and have it be the same length. So hopefully I won't have to do too much adjustment afterwards, because I went ahead and tightened up the jam nuts. So hopefully it winds up being the right length when I check the alignment on the front end after I do the other side. So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to bolt it back in. The kit came with 2 bolts, a nut, and 2 new washers. One washer goes on top of the tie rod and one goes below. So, and you saw the orientation of the bolt prior to me taking it apart. So let's put it back in now. All right, we got the tie rod back in. I had made a lot of effort to try to make sure these two flats on the tie rod ends were even with each other. And then I went to install it, and I realized that when they're installed, they're not even with each other, so I had to readjust the end a little bit so that it wasn't cocked a little bit. You don't want them to be cocked because then they'll start to wear prematurely. But before I put the wheel and tire back on, I'm going to go ahead and grease it up. Again, I try to do that a few times a year. So there's a grease zert here. There's one on the other bushing over there. And then there's one for the ball joint, which is dirty. It's down here. So I'm going to go ahead and clean that up, and then I'll do that one also. Then I'll put the wheel on, and I'll start the other side. I had taken the other side apart, and one of the washers was in a different spot. So this one had a washer up here, and the other side didn't. So I went ahead and switched them around. It seems like a pretty big flanged bolt. So there's no washer here. And then there's a washer here, and then there's a washer down here underneath the nut now. So it matches the other side. So I put them both back together the way they were at first. You know, I took them apart. So one of them was backwards earlier, I guess. I'll look at the parts microfiche later on Babbitt's and see if I can tell from that where the washers are supposed to be to make sure I got them in the right spot. But they're both the same now. For the alignment, what I normally do is just draw some pencil marks on both the tires. All right, most of the time you can just use a pen or whatever and scratch the dirt off there so you can see it. And then you'll take and you'll measure from one pencil mark straight across to the other. All right, and then you'll roll the tire 180 degrees so that pencil mark's in the back on both of them. And then you'll measure across the back of both of them and see what that measurement is. And you'll need to have a manual to see what your toe in or toe out is supposed to be. This one is supposed to be barely toed out. I think it's 1/8 of an inch toed out. I'll go look at the manual to make sure before I do it, and then go get some help, get one of my kids to help me with this. And then you'll adjust the tie rods to get that alignment. So hopefully you'll wind up with your steering wheel straight when the wheels are straight. All right, and hopefully it'll track straight and everything once you got it aligned. So that's changing out some tie rod ends. And again, I didn't use the OEM ones. I used Allballs brand tie rod ends. As a final comment on it all, I took it for a little spin around the front yard after aligning it and all. But there's no more free play in here. When I wiggle the steering column, the tires are wiggling now. So I don't have that 1/4 of an inch or so of free play anymore. So I'm changing out those tie rod ends, get rid of that free play in my steering. Thanks for watching.